What is up? It's Figure Hunter, and today we're going to do a full heart rate accuracy review for the new Coros Apex 4. We're going to test it across sort of monostructural or sort of low-level cardio, zone 2 tracking, more intense sort of rowing intervals, Olympic lifting, and more dynamic, as well as static lifting, as well as heavy step-ups, and then CrossFit, so high-intensity interval training. So we're going to look at it at a few workouts in each of those subsets, and then we're going to look at one combination chart and talk about its correlation to an ECG chest strap, the Polar H10. You should, and also remember the full analysis heart rate accuracy review for the Coros Nomad. I'll put a link in the description down below for the full review for that, because they are the same heart rate sensor, and so they are going to have similar dynamics, and we did get different results, but at the same time I feel like we got the same results, which is just simply inconsistency with accuracy, especially when doing higher intensity type work that involves wrist flex. This is sort of, I would say, like a C level, C score, A, B, C ranking system. So this is just sort of in the mediocre range of accuracy with these devices, specifically the Apex 4 from Coros, as well as the Nomad, which got a little bit lower score, but I think it basically got the same kind of results, just maybe didn't have the same exact correlation data. So we're going to look at charts when it comes to each of those workout types, and then we're going to talk about it in summary, and we'll go from there. Okay, so for the first low-level zone 2 cardio, for whatever reason, it spiked up at random different times. I was doing ski erg and the rower and assault bike. This one actually looks pretty good. So again, sort of the low-level intensity workouts, even using some wrist flex, because I was doing ski erg and assault bike and rowing, that one did fine. And then we had another one which is totally erroneous all over the place, just random spikes at different times, which obviously was not accurate, and it wasn't even an intense workout. So that's how it did in the zone 2. Now we're looking at the rowing intervals. So this was not like the world's most intense, but it was somewhat intense with 2 different sessions. It did fine in the first session and not so fine in the second session, with a ramp up in the second session, a 3x3 ramp up at increasing speeds. It just did not hold well together as the heart rate got higher. Here, this one actually was pretty fine, although it didn't quite take some of the dips or some of the recovery, but it did fine for the most part with that rowing session. And then this rowing session, total failure. The intensity wasn't like super, super high. And again, this was more of a drive practice. And so it was just more drive rather than speed. And you can see that did not keep up with it at all. Now we have some dynamic lifting. So this was typically Olympic type lifts coupled with some static lifts, and then some step ups with a weighted pack at the end. Did fine on the step ups of the weighted pack, but obviously there's no wrist flex whatsoever. And it did fine in this lifting session. This is actually pretty good for lifting. Here, another lifting session, not so good. Obviously it just did terrible. Missed a lot of the lifts. Didn't do anything right really in that one. This one was fine. This one wasn't terrible, and this might have actually gone to a CrossFit workout on the backside, but a lot of dynamic lifting. It missed a number. I think the heavier back squats, even though this wasn't a static lift, the heart rate changes really quickly with heavy weighted back squats. It got some of the dynamic lifts, the other lifts correctly, but just not great here. Again, heavy front squats in the beginning. Did not get these like super heavy where my breath was braced, but did fine on most of the clean and jerks and jerk practice in the remaining part of the workout. And now we're on to CrossFit. So some lifting in the beginning, and you can see it in the intense portion in the latter half. It just didn't keep up with it. Another CrossFit workout where it did capture, I would say, most of the lifting a little bit in the beginning, and then it did capture the intensity of the CrossFit workout itself for the most part. And then I did extra step ups because I'm training for Chad on the end, so it kept up the step ups fine, but there was a 0 wrist flex there. Another CrossFit workout where it obviously missed the peak, really just inaccurate. And then here's the correlation chart. Here's the summary of all of its accuracy across 25,000 different heart rate. Sometimes it was over, most times it was below. A 0.75 is a very mediocre, even in today's world. And then if you were to compare it to the Nomad got 0.65. So it still looks very similar. If you look at one versus the other, one just happens to have a lot more data built into it. similar. And so I would say they operate basically the same because they are basically the same heart rate sensor. So what do I think about this? What do I think about this correlation? You know, it's par for the course for most heart rate sensors, or like kind of the average sensors. There are sensors that are getting better. The new Suunto watch, I got the Vertical 2 on. I'm going to do some reviews for that. It has a much better sensor that at least was on the Race 2. And the Garmin Elevate 5.0, Apple Watch has got a really good sensor, but obviously has no training data and no helpful analytics when it comes to wellness and recovery. But in simple terms, this just says with the new watches from Coros, whether it's the Nomad or the Apex 4, you just should not trust it for good training data, because this flows into your aerobic training effect and your anaerobic training effect. And in simple terms, when it's missing large parts of the intense parts of the workout or big portions of the lift, you know, you can't really rely on it as that it's going to give you training analytic accuracy. And the training analytic accuracy flows into your training load over time, which you really just want to have an external sensor. You want to have something that's going to really be tied to an accurate heart rate graph so that you can have accurate training feedback, which ties into your aerobic training and anaerobic training effect for every workout, as well as your training load over time. So in general, 0.75, somewhere between 0.65 and 0.75, depending on which device. They have the same heart rate sensor, the Nomad, the Apex 4. Take that for what it's worth. That's on the lower end. In general, it's not the worst I've seen ever. And some of these workouts turned out fine. It probably would be fine for zone 2 training, and you really shouldn't trust it for anything else with higher level spikes or higher level transitions in heart rate accuracy or heart rate intensity. That's my final review for the heart rate accuracy when doing dynamic lifting, zone 2 cardio, some rowing intervals, as well as CrossFit for the Coros Apex 4, as well as the Nomad. It's Vic, your Hunter. Thanks so much for watching.